When we talk about elders carrying spiritual authority, we are not talking about a title, a position, or simply the number of candles on a birthday cake. We are talking about something far deeper, a kind of authority that is forged over a lifetime of walking with Allah through every season the heart can experience. It is the authority that comes from falling down and getting back up, from praying when answers were delayed, from holding on to faith when circumstances tried to shake it loose. Elders carry a weight in their dawah that is not loud, not showy, but deeply rooted. It is the quiet strength of people who have seen enough of the world to know that real power does not come from dramatic words, but from sincere hearts that have learned to depend on God fully. Think about what an elder's prayer represents. It carries the memory of decades filled with devotion, dawn prayers offered consistently when bodies were tired, tears shed secretly when burdens were heavy, gratitude spoken softly after blessing were received. Their voices carry the record of obedience in times when faith was inconvenient, of patience when they could have chosen bitterness, of trust when explanations were missing. Experience refines sincerity, time deepens humility, and humility is the essence of powerful prayer. An elder does not approach God with arrogance or entitlement. They come asking as someone who understands their complete need of Him. Spiritual authority is not something announced, it is recognized. You feel it when an elder raises their hands in dawah and suddenly a room becomes still. You sense that they are not merely asking on their own behalf, but carrying people, families, struggles, and entire communities within their supplication. It is the authority of someone who has prayed over sick children, over financial hardship, over broken relationships, and over their own weaknesses, and who has witnessed firsthand how much God listens and responds. Their certainty is not theoretical, it is lived. This authority also grows out of consistency. Elders did not learn dawah as an occasional crisis ritual. Prayer became their default language with Allah, their first reaction, not their last resort. Over years and decades, their trust deepened into an unshakable confidence. When they speak to God, they know they are heard, not because they believe they deserve anything special, but because they believe deeply in God's mercy and promise. That steady reliance shapes a powerful spiritual presence. Their prayers are settled, not rushed, sincere, not scattered, focused, not fearful, and in that consistency is another kind of authority, wisdom. Elders understand which matters need words and which require surrender. They know how to pray for outcomes, but also how to pray for acceptance. They have prayed long enough to realize that sometimes what we ask for is not what we ultimately need. So they ask God for wisdom before they ask for relief, for righteousness before success, for steadfast hearts before easy lives. This maturity in supplication changes everything. Their prayers are shaped by perspective. They see life beyond the immediate moment. They pray not only for comfort but for character, not only for ease but for endurance. This spiritual authority becomes most visible when elders pray for others. Their prayers are rarely rushed or surface level. When they intercede, they call names with intention. They cry for grandchildren they worry about, for marriages they hope will survive, for youth facing temptations they barely speak about. Their prayers stretch forward into futures they may never see, and yet they pray with full conviction that Allah will carry what they leave behind. That is spiritual leadership without the spotlight, shepherding souls quietly before the throne of God. There is also something deeply moving about how elders pray with contentment. They do not come negotiating with God. They come trusting Him. Many of them have lost loved ones, buried dreams, watched plans fall apart. Yet they still lift their hands with softness rather than resentment. Their ability to remain gentle with life gives their prayers an unusual authenticity. Their words may be simple, even brief, but the humility behind them speaks volumes. When they ask for blessing, it is not out of restlessness but surrender, and listen closely to how they speak to God. Their prayers carry gratitude. They often thank Allah before asking anything at all. They remember where they started and how far they have come. They remember the moments when survival itself felt like an unanswered prayer. And yet here they stand, still breathing, still believing. Gratitude fuels authority, because thankfulness trains the heart to recognize God's continuous presence. That recognition strengthens faith so deeply that even when prayers remain unanswered, hope never disappears. For younger generations, the spiritual authority of elders is something we urgently need to recognize. There is a temptation to overlook them in a fast, moving world that celebrates youth, innovation, and visibility. But the quiet prayers of elders often hold more power than any microphone ever could. Their prayers create spiritual covering, unseen protection that guards hearts and homes. Many breakthroughs tracing back to an elder who whispered a name in Dawah, asked Allah for guidance, or prayed protection over a life that never knew how close it came to danger. Their authority also teaches us something incredibly important. That depth takes time. Faith matures slowly. Dawah develops richness through repetition. Trust builds over years of choosing surrender when anxiety would be easier. Elders show us that spiritual strength does not appear overnight. It is built prayer by prayer, disappointment by disappointment, answered request by unanswered plea. Their entire lives become testimonies of what steady faith can accomplish. So when elders pray, we are not just hearing words, we are listening to the echoes of long spiritual journeys. We are witnessing voices shaped by obedience, patience, and devotion. Their authority is not loud, but it is profound. Their influence is not visible, but it is immeasurable. And when they lift their hands to Allah on our behalf, heaven responds to the sincerity of hearts that have learned to rely on Him completely. So honor their voices, value their supplications, and never underestimate the spiritual authority carried in the prayers of elders, because their whispered Dawah can open doors that strength alone never could. When we reflect on the nature of elders' prayers, one of the most profound truths is that their prayers are rooted in experience. They do not speak lightly or casually to Allah. Every supplication they make carries the weight of lives lived, of lessons learned, and of countless moments when they had to rely solely on God. This is what sets their prayers apart. They come from a place of deep understanding, not from theory, not from books, not from fleeting enthusiasm, but from a heart that has been tried, tested, and refined through the realities of life. Experience becomes the lens through which they see the world and the filter through which their words ascend in prayer. Think about the kind of experience that shapes such prayers. Elders have walked through seasons that younger people may never fully appreciate. They have known the pain of loss, whether it was the death of loved ones, the dissolution of relationships, or the fading of dreams they once held dearly. They have tasted the bitterness of disappointment, the frustration of unanswered questions, the exhaustion of endless struggle. And yet, through it all, they remained steadfast. They learned that while life is unpredictable, God is consistent. And when they pray, it is with that intimate knowledge that Allah is never distant, never inattentive, and never unfair. Their prayers reflect a trust that is earned, not assumed. Experience also gives elders perspective. While many of us might pray impulsively, asking for immediate relief, elders pray with a longer view. They have seen that sometimes what we desire in the moment is not what is best in the greater scheme of life. They know that God's wisdom often surpasses human understanding, and so their prayers are measured, seeking not only comfort but guidance, patience, resilience, and strength. They pray for what endures, not just for what is convenient or fleeting. Their prayers often rise not as urgent pleas, but as steady, intentional, and heartfelt requests, shaped by the knowledge that lasting blessings are cultivated over time. Another dimension of their experience is rooted in perseverance. Many of their prayers were formed in the crucible of hardship. When the nights were long and hope felt distant, they kept speaking to God. When prayers seemed unanswered, they did not give up. Every hardship, every challenge, every trial added depth and texture to their understanding of God's mercy. This perseverance turns prayer into something extraordinary. It becomes a channel through which divine wisdom flows, a bridge between human need and God's providence. Younger generations often fail to recognize that this kind of depth cannot be rushed. It is built over decades of sincere supplication, reflection, and reliance. Experience also teaches empathy. Elders pray not only for themselves, but for others, often in ways that are unseen. Their knowledge of human struggle makes their supplications rich with compassion. They understand the fears and vulnerabilities of the next generation because they have lived through their own. They have known disappointment, temptation, confusion, and heartbreak. And so when they pray for grandchildren, for neighbors, or for entire communities, they do so with a sensitivity that only comes from lived experience. Their prayers are attuned to both the needs of the heart and the wisdom of the mind, creating a resonance that is powerful and transformative. One of the most beautiful aspects of elders' experience is the balance between hope and realism. They have seen that life is neither all hardship nor all ease. They know that blessings often come in disguise, that trials often carry hidden lessons, and that what we see on the surface rarely tells the full story. When they pray with that awareness. They ask for blessings, yes, but they also ask for patience to endure difficulties, for understanding to navigate uncertainty, and for hearts that remain grateful even when life does not go according to plan. Their prayers are informed by the rhythm of life itself, the rise and fall, the victories and setbacks, the joys and the sorrows. Moreover, elders' experience brings authenticity to their prayers. There is no pretense, no need to impress. They do not pray for recognition. They pray because they have witnessed God's faithfulness, and they know the power of turning to Him. Their words carry weight precisely because they are born from reality. This authenticity is a reminder for all of us that prayer is not a performance but a conversation, a heartfelt expression that connects human vulnerability with divine power. When elders pray, their sincerity is palpable, their devotion evident, and their reliance on God unmistakable. Experience also allows elders to see patterns that others may miss. They recognize the cycles of life, the recurring struggles, and the common pitfalls. Their prayers, therefore, are often preventative as much as they are intercessory. They pray to protect before calamity strikes, to guide before mistakes are made, and to strengthen before challenges become overwhelming. This foresight is a gift of experience, turning their supplication into a shield for those who follow them. Finally, elders' experience transforms their prayers into a legacy. Every word carries not only their personal wisdom, but also the accumulated knowledge of generations. They pray with awareness that their supplications can influence lives long after they themselves are gone. Their prayers are like seeds planted carefully in the soil of time, destined to bear fruit for those who come after. This generational impact is perhaps one of the most profound ways their experience manifests in prayer, a living testimony that the lessons of a faithful life do not end with one individual, but continue to bless families, communities, and even nations. So when we recognize that elders' prayers are rooted in experience, we understand why their words are so powerful, why their supplications carry such weight, and why their intercession often seems to unlock blessings in ways we cannot explain. They bring to the act of prayer a depth, a perspective, and a wisdom that can only be earned through years of walking faithfully with God. Their prayers are living proof that a life well lived in faith and obedience, becomes a conduit for blessings far beyond what any single person could achieve. Their prayers are not just requests, they are testimonies, lessons, and legacies woven together in humble conversation with the Most High. When we speak of elders building a spiritual covering through their prayers, we are speaking about something profound, yet often invisible to the eyes. It is not something that can be measured in material terms or weighed in gold, but its effects ripple through generations and communities in ways that are both protective and transformative. Spiritual covering is the quiet yet powerful influence that elders exert when they intercede on behalf of others, and it is rooted in their deep lived experience, their faith, and their steadfast reliance on Allah. It is a kind of guardianship that transcends physical presence, reaching into hearts, homes, and lives in a manner that is both subtle and undeniable. Think about the way this works. Elders, by virtue of their prayers, create a shield around those they love, often before those under their care even recognize a need for protection. When a grandparent lifts hands in Dawah, they may pray for health, for guidance, for safety from unseen trials, or for spiritual strength. These prayers do not always produce immediate, visible results, but they shape circumstances in ways that are profound. The protection they invoke is not only from harm in the physical sense, but also from the spiritual and emotional challenges that life inevitably brings. It is a covering that strengthens resilience, nurtures faith, and provides a quiet reassurance that someone is watching over us in the most sincere and sacred way. Spiritual covering is also deeply tied to consistency. Elders have prayed over the years for families, for neighbors, for communities, and even for people they may never meet. This long-term commitment creates a continuous layer of intercession, a steady presence of prayer that acts like a spiritual umbrella, shielding those beneath it from the harsh storms of life. Each prayer, though seemingly small or personal, contributes to a broader framework of divine protection. It is cumulative, like drops of water gradually filling a reservoir until it becomes a source of life. In this sense, the prayers of elders are not occasional gestures, but deliberate acts of guardianship that accumulate powerfully over time. Another aspect of this spiritual covering is its grounding in love and care. Elders do not pray superficially or casually. Their prayers are born from deep concern and genuine compassion. They remember the struggles of those they care about, the temptations that threaten the young, the doubts that weigh on the hearts of those in need, and the trials that might otherwise go unnoticed. Their prayers act as a protective net, catching what might otherwise fall through, offering guidance, stability, and a sense of security. The sincerity in their hearts transforms prayer into a form of spiritual stewardship, an act of selfless guardianship that is both humble and powerful. The power of spiritual covering is amplified by the wisdom elders possess. Their life experience allows them to pray with discernment. They understand what needs attention first, what requires intervention, and what should be left to Allah's perfect timing. They have witnessed the consequences of neglect, of prayer that is absent or half-hearted, and they have seen the blessings that arise from persistent, deliberate supplication. This wisdom ensures that their prayers are not random or reactive. They are strategic, heartfelt, and aligned with divine guidance. In essence, elders learn to pray in a way that maximizes the protective and transformative impact on those they care about. Spiritual covering through prayer is also intimately connected to humility. Elders do not seek recognition for their intercession. They do not announce their prayers or demand attention for their devotion. Instead, they pray quietly, sincerely, and with the knowledge that Allah alone sees and responds. This humility makes their spiritual covering even more potent, because it is pure and untainted by ego or desire for reward. The protection and blessings they invoke are freely given, based solely on love, faith, and devotion. In this way, the covering they provide is both generous and selfless, a testament to the deep spiritual maturity that years of devotion cultivate. Another important dimension of spiritual covering is its long-term effect. Unlike physical protection, which can be temporary and circumstantial, the impact of elders' prayers often spans generations. When they pray for the guidance of their children, for the stability of their families, or for the well-being of their communities, these prayers lay a foundation that benefits not just the present, but the future. The blessings and protection they invoke do not vanish with time. They extend into the lives of grandchildren and even great-grandchildren, creating a legacy of divine favor. In this sense, elders' prayers act like an invisible framework upon which the safety, faith, and resilience of entire families and communities are built. Spiritual covering also strengthens the character of those beneath it. When young people sense the support of elders' prayers, even unconsciously, it instills confidence, hope, and a sense of being cherished and guided. It reinforces the understanding that they are not alone in life's challenges, that someone with experience and wisdom cares deeply about their journey, and that Allah is attentive to the voices lifted on their behalf. This emotional and spiritual reassurance empowers individuals to navigate difficulties with greater patience, faith, and resilience. The protective effect is both internal and external, shaping hearts while influencing circumstances. Furthermore, elders' prayers often inspire those around them to seek their own connection with Allah. Witnessing the depth, consistency, and sincerity of their intercession encourages others to develop a similar practice of prayer. This multiplication effect extends the spiritual covering even further, as communities learn to intercede for one another, creating a network of protection, guidance, and divine blessing. The initial prayers of elders thus spark a ripple effect, enhancing the spiritual strength of entire families, congregations, and neighborhoods. Finally, the notion of spiritual covering reminds us of the unseen dimensions of faith. We live in a world where the effects of prayer are not always immediately visible. We may not see the answers, the protection, or the guidance that elders' prayers secure. But faith teaches us that what is unseen is often more powerful than what is apparent. The spiritual covering created by elders' prayers is one of those unseen forces, quietly shaping lives, influencing outcomes, and providing comfort and protection that surpasses human understanding. It is a force that binds generations together in faith, in hope, and in divine care. So, when we recognize the spiritual covering built by elders, we begin to understand that their prayers are far more than words. They are shields, guidance, protection, and blessings that extend far beyond the immediate moment. They quietly guard hearts, homes, and lives, creating a network of divine favor that spans generations. Their intercession is a living testament to the power of faith, experience, and devotion, reminding us that sometimes the most profound protection comes not from what we see, but from what is unseen. Their prayers do not merely ask for blessings, they create a spiritual shelter under which all who are loved can find safety and strength. When we consider the impact of elders' prayers, one of the most remarkable truths is how these prayers extend blessings across generations. This is not just about the momentary benefit that comes to someone who is prayed for. It is about the far-reaching influence that continues to shape lives long after the initial prayer is made. When an elder prays, they are not thinking only of today. They are thinking of tomorrow and the tomorrows that follow. They understand the long arc of life, the interconnectedness of families, and the way faith and blessing can ripple outward to touch people and places that may never even know the source of their favor. This is the essence of generational blessing, and it is one of the greatest gifts an elder can offer. Blessings that cross generations start with vision. Elders have a way of seeing beyond the immediate moment, beyond the pressures and distractions of daily life, to the long-term spiritual well-being of their families and communities. They pray for their children not just for safety or comfort, but for character, for integrity, for faithfulness, and for a life aligned with the principles of righteousness. They understand that nurturing spiritual strength today is what allows blessings to endure into the next generation. Their prayers are like planting seeds carefully and deliberately, knowing that the harvest may take years to appear, but it will come and it will be abundant. Experience plays a critical role in this process. Elders have witnessed the patterns of life, the triumphs and failures of those who came before, and they have learned which prayers yield lasting results. They understand that true blessing is not always immediate or material, but that spiritual growth, resilience, and steadfastness produce the kind of fruits that endure. Their prayers are therefore shaped not by short-term desires but by long-term insight. They ask God to strengthen the hearts of children before temptation comes, to guide decisions before mistakes occur, and to build character before trials test them. Their prayers anticipate needs that may not yet be apparent, providing a foundation that safeguards future generations. The generational impact of their prayers is also deeply tied to consistency. One prayer offered in a moment of crisis is powerful, yes, but the prayers of elders are often sustained, persistent, and patient. Over the years, these repeated invocations create a cumulative effect. Like water gradually carving a stone, persistent prayer molds the spiritual environment of families and communities. This is how blessings continue to flow, not because of occasional fervor, but because of steady devotion, repeated over months and years, until the prayers become a legacy of faith that children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren inherit. Moreover, elders often pray with a selfless heart. They do not pray primarily for recognition, applause, or immediate benefit. Their concern is for the well-being and spiritual growth of those they love. This selflessness enhances the power of their prayers, because it removes distractions of ego and aligns their intentions fully with God's will. When elders pray in this manner, they become instruments of divine blessing in the lives of generations. Their prayers act as a bridge between human need and divine provision, allowing God's mercy to flow where it is needed most, sometimes in ways that are not immediately visible or understood. Another important aspect is the nature of the prayers themselves. Elders often pray for qualities and virtues rather than just material gains. They ask for wisdom, patience, faith, understanding, and resilience, qualities that shape character and prepare younger generations to navigate life successfully. These are the kinds of blessings that multiply over time because they equip those who receive them to live lives of purpose and to influence others positively. A child who inherits faith and perseverance through their grandparents' prayers will not only benefit personally, but will also be positioned to nurture the spiritual and moral development of their own children, creating a cycle of blessing that can continue indefinitely. Spiritual blessings also flow across generations because elders pray with authority born of experience. They have witnessed God's faithfulness in their own lives and in the lives of others. They have seen prayers answered in unexpected ways, and they have learned patience when answers are delayed. This certainty infuses their prayers with a power and confidence that cannot be replicated by those who have not walked through similar seasons. When an elder prays for a family member or a community, it is not a tentative request. It is a firm, faithful plea rooted in lived reality. Their prayers carry weight, and that weight is transmitted through time and through the lives of those they bless. The ripple effect of elders' prayers is also amplified by the relational connections they maintain. Elders often occupy a central role in families and communities, allowing their prayers to touch a wide network of people Their concern is not limited to immediate family. It extends to neighbors, friends, and sometimes even entire communities. By praying for the well-being, guidance, and protection of these broader circles, they create an environment where blessings multiply and spread. What begins as a prayer for one individual often benefits many, because the spiritual influence of elders flows outward, strengthening bonds, fostering faith, and cultivating a sense of security and support. Additionally, elders often model the value of prayer and dependence on God for younger generations. Children and grandchildren who witness the devotion of elders learn not just by words, but by example. They see the power of consistent supplication, the patience required for long-term intercession, and the humility that accompanies sincere prayer. In this way, elders' prayers plant not only spiritual seeds in the hearts of those they pray for, but also inspire the next generation to continue the practice. The legacy of prayer thus extends beyond immediate benefits to a perpetuating cycle of faith and blessing. Finally, we must understand that the generational impact of elders' prayers is a gift that extends even beyond what we can observe or measure. Many times, the effects are unseen. We may not realize the ways in which a grandparent's prayer protected a child from harm, guided a teenager through a critical decision, or opened a door to opportunity at precisely the right moment. Yet faith teaches us that nothing is lost, and that every sincere prayer offered in devotion to God carries consequences beyond our comprehension. This understanding should move us to honor and respect the elders in our lives, to value their prayers, and to recognize the profound way their intercession shapes the present and the future. So when we reflect on how elders' prayers bring blessings across generations, we see that their words are far more than expressions of hope. They are investments in the spiritual future, seeds planted in faith, and acts of devotion that will bear fruit long after the moment has passed. Their prayers create a foundation that strengthens families, fortifies communities, and sets the stage for blessings to flow into lives yet to come. Elders' prayers remind us that the faith of one generation becomes the inheritance of the next, and that blessing once sown can echo across time. When we reflect on the power of elders' prayers, one of the essential truths is that honoring elders unlocks blessings in ways that are both profound and far-reaching. In our fast-paced world, it is easy to overlook the wisdom, experience, and spiritual insight that our elders carry. We may assume that age is simply a number, that knowledge can be found in books, or that success is measured by achievement. But the reality is that God has placed a unique role for elders in our lives, not only as guides and mentors, but as intercessors whose prayers hold special weight. When we recognize, respect, and seek the prayers of elders, we are aligning ourselves with a divine design, one that has been in place for generations, and one that carries blessings that cannot be earned through effort alone. Honoring elders begins with recognition. It is easy to dismiss their advice, their perspective, or their ways simply because we are younger or feel more capable. But the wisdom of elders is forged through decades of experience, reflection, and trial. They have walked through seasons of joy and hardship that we may not yet understand. They have made decisions, faced consequences, endured challenges, and yet remained steadfast in their faith. When we honor them, we are acknowledging that their experiences have shaped them into vessels through which God can pour guidance and blessing. Respecting elders is more than politeness. It is a spiritual posture, an act of humility that recognizes God's design in placing them in positions of authority and influence over our lives. Seeking the prayers of elders is an act of submission, not weakness. There is a misconception that asking for someone's prayer implies dependence or lack of faith. In reality, it is a recognition that God has appointed certain people to be sources of intercession and blessing. When an elder prays on your behalf, They are calling upon God with the authority and experience they have gained through a lifetime of faith. Their supplications are often informed by wisdom that transcends immediate circumstances, and their perspective allows them to pray in ways that we may not even know to ask. This is why seeking the prayers of elders is not only wise but necessary. It opens a channel for divine favor in ways that personal effort alone cannot achieve. Honoring elders also aligns with God's design for community and family. In the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, respect for parents, elders, and those who carry knowledge and experience is emphasized repeatedly. This respect is not symbolic, it is functional. It strengthens social bonds, cultivates humility, and creates an environment in which blessing can flow freely. When we honor our elders, we are participating in a divine system in which obedience, respect, and reverence become conduits for blessing. The act of honoring is itself a form of worship, a recognition of God's wisdom in placing these experienced individuals in our lives. There is also a relational dynamic that is critical to understand. Elders who are honored and respected feel empowered to pray with greater intensity, sincerity, and dedication for those they care about. Human beings are naturally motivated when they feel valued and appreciated, and this is magnified in the spiritual realm. When an elder's prayers are sought and their guidance heeded, their hearts are lifted, and their connection to God is energized by love, concern, and devotion. This synergy amplifies the spiritual impact of their supplications. The more we honor them, the more effectively they can intercede on our behalf. It is a beautiful reciprocity. Respect and recognition fuel sincere intercession, which in turn brings blessings to those who are prayed for. Honoring elders is not limited to verbal acknowledgement. It is expressed through actions, attentiveness, and adherence to their guidance. Listening to their counsel, valuing their advice, and integrating their insights into our lives are all ways of showing respect. Even small gestures, spending time with them, learning from their stories, or seeking their dawah regularly, demonstrate a recognition of their spiritual authority. These acts of honor are not only morally right but spiritually potent. They create an atmosphere in which blessing is not only requested but invited. It is a reminder that spiritual benefit flows most readily when humility, gratitude, and reverence are present in the hearts of those receiving guidance and intercession. The blessings that come from honoring elders are not always immediate or material. Often, they manifest in ways that are subtle, gradual, and transformative. It may be a sense of protection, an unexpected solution to a problem, or a shift in perspective that allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. These blessings may appear in family dynamics, in personal growth, in career opportunities, or in spiritual maturity. What is certain, however, is that when we honor those whose prayers carry weight, we align ourselves with a divine principle, that respect, obedience, and humility are gateways through which God pours His favor. There is also an element of spiritual continuity when we honor elders. By recognizing their role, we are connecting ourselves to a lineage of faith and devotion. The prayers of elders often contain the accumulated blessings of generations, shaped by long experience and deep reliance on God. Honoring them ensures that we are not cutting ourselves off from this spiritual inheritance, but rather allowing it to flow freely into our lives. It is a reminder that blessings are rarely isolated. They are part of a chain passed from one generation to the next through prayer, guidance, and faithful example. Furthermore, honoring elders teaches patience and discipline. In a culture that often values speed, independence, and immediate gratification, learning to pause, listen, and respect someone with decades of experience is a form of spiritual training. It humbles us, reminding us that wisdom is cultivated over time, that life's lessons are earned through experience, and that true blessing often requires receptivity rather than assertion. The practice of honoring elders, therefore, cultivates character in addition to unlocking divine favor. Finally, the act of honoring elders is an acknowledgement of the unseen forces of blessing that shape our lives. We may not always see the mechanisms by which their prayers affect our circumstances, but faith teaches us that the impact is real, powerful, and lasting. When we respect, seek guidance from, and pray with elders, we tap into a source of divine blessing that has been carefully nurtured through a lifetime of devotion. It is both a privilege and a responsibility to honor those who have paved the way spiritually, emotionally, and morally. So when we recognize the importance of honoring elders, we understand that this is not merely a cultural expectation or a social nicety. It is a spiritual principle with real power. Their prayers carry weight, their guidance opens doors, and their wisdom provides protection and blessing that extend far beyond the immediate moment. Honoring elders aligns us with God's design and opens the heart to blessings that only their intercession can unlock. When we talk about the power of elders' prayers, one of the most remarkable aspects is how joining their prayers multiplies their impact. It is one thing to pray individually, and it is another to unite in supplication with those who carry wisdom, experience, and spiritual authority. When the younger generation aligns themselves with the prayers of elders, a kind of spiritual synergy takes place, one that amplifies the effects of the Dawah and creates a collective force that draws divine attention and mercy. It is a reminder that prayer is not just a private conversation with God, but a communal act, a shared responsibility, and a powerful instrument for blessing when hearts are aligned in sincerity and purpose. Elders pray from a place of life experience, having walked through trials, challenges, joys, and losses that shape a deep understanding of God's mercy and justice. Their prayers are not theoretical. They are forged in the realities of life. When younger individuals join these prayers, they bring energy, sincerity, and fresh perspective, creating a dynamic balance between wisdom and vitality. This combination is potent because it marries experience with enthusiasm, knowledge with hope, and perseverance with fresh intention. The act of joining elders in prayer acknowledges that their years of devotion have cultivated spiritual authority, and that when combined with our own heartfelt supplication, the potential for blessing is magnified. There is a special power in unity. When multiple hearts lift to God together, the collective sincerity strengthens the prayer itself. Allah tells us in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet that when people come together in sincere worship, there is an energy, a spiritual momentum that carries their requests in a way that transcends individual limitations. Elders' prayers already have weight due to their life experience, and when others join them, this weight is enhanced. It is as though the prayers build upon one another, layering trust, faith, and intention, until they become an unstoppable current of divine appeal. Each additional voice adds not only quantity but depth and resonance to the plea being offered to God. Joining in elders' prayers also demonstrates humility and recognition of spiritual authority. To align with their supplication is to acknowledge that they carry wisdom that comes from years of walking faithfully with God. It is an act of submission, not weakness, because it shows that we understand the importance of intercession, guidance, and experience. This humility opens our hearts to receive not only the blessings requested in prayer, but also the spiritual guidance embedded within the elders' intentions. We learn from them, we grow with them, and through this alignment, our own spiritual maturity is strengthened. It becomes clear that blessings are often unlocked not through isolation, but through relationship and interconnection. There is a generational dimension to this unity as well. Elders have often prayed for the prosperity, safety, and spiritual growth of families and communities for years, sometimes decades. By joining in their prayers, younger generations participate in a continuum of intercession, connecting themselves to a legacy of faith and devotion. It is a living link between generations, a chain of blessing that strengthens the spiritual fabric of families and communities. The prayers of elders reach into the past, their guidance informs the present, and when joined by others, they extend even further into the future, multiplying the benefits that flow to children, grandchildren, and beyond. This continuity ensures that blessings are not isolated or fleeting, but embedded into the ongoing story of faith. Joining elders in prayer also fosters accountability and focus. In a world where distractions are constant and our attention is fragmented, standing alongside those who have disciplined themselves through years of consistent worship reminds us of the seriousness and sanctity of prayer. We are encouraged to bring our best intentions, to humble ourselves, and to engage fully in the act of supplication. This attentiveness enhances the quality of our own prayers, while respecting the dedication of the elders we are joining. It becomes a shared spiritual practice that elevates everyone involved, teaching patience, discipline, and the power of intention. Moreover, the collective aspect of prayer generates hope and reassurance. Life is full of uncertainty, challenges, and unexpected hardships. Knowing that elders are praying with us, alongside us, or on our behalf instills confidence and peace. Their spiritual presence, combined with our own, creates a sense of protection and support that is deeply comforting. This is not just psychological, it is spiritual. The unity of hearts focused on God amplifies the trust and dependence we place in Him, demonstrating that the act of intercession is strengthened when approached together. It is a practical manifestation of faith, showing that reliance on God is both personal and communal. The act of joining in elders' prayers also provides an opportunity for learning and spiritual growth. Observing how they structure their supplication, the intentions they prioritize, and the patience they exhibit in asking for what is truly beneficial teaches invaluable lessons. Younger individuals witness a model of prayer that is intentional, measured, and deeply rooted in experience. By participating alongside elders, they internalize the principles of persistence, humility, and devotion. Over time, this not only strengthens the immediate impact of the prayer, but cultivates a new generation capable of carrying the same spiritual authority forward. Finally, there is a profound beauty in the shared vulnerability of united prayer. To pray together is to open our hearts in a communal expression of trust in God. When we align with elders, we are also acknowledging our shared dependence on Him. This vulnerability creates an environment where divine mercy can flow freely, where hearts are softened, and where the power of collective intention magnifies the efficacy of every petition. The elders' prayers serve as the foundation, and each additional voice adds strength, depth, and resonance, creating a powerful symphony of devotion that reaches the heavens with clarity and purpose. So, when we join elders in prayer, we are not merely participating in a ritual. We are engaging in a transformative act that multiplies blessing, deepens faith, and connects generations. We amplify the power of intercession, strengthen spiritual bonds, and learn the discipline and humility required to truly commune with God. Their prayers are potent, but together with sincerity and alignment, the impact becomes immeasurable. Joining the prayers of elders reminds us that faith is strongest when hearts rise together, and that blessing multiplies when generations unite in sincere supplication.